Hi, it's Scarlett at Gini Studio. Today we're going to talk about all the crimes and legal issues in Cinderella. Cinderella was written by Charles Perrault in 1697. When Cinderella's father died, in accordance with the law at the time, his estate would pass to his heir, whoever that is next in line. Cinderella could not hold title because women were legally not a person in 1697. The stepmother, stepsisters, and Cinderella were all screwed. No joke. The only way out was to marry out of the family. That's why every girl in the kingdom was so desperate to get the prince's attention. It was their only chance for a happily ever after. Fast forward a century to the Grimm brothers, where a married woman would be able to hold title to her husband's property should the husband become incapacitated. In that case, the stepmother would inherit the house, but Cinderella would still end up in the same place. Nowadays, of course, Cinderella would have inherited part of her father's estate upon his death. Everyone lived happily ever after as tenant in common. The end.
Yay!
Before we go any further, you should know that there are criminal wrongs and civil wrongs. Criminal wrongs are punishable by fines or imprisonment, whereas civil wrongs are remedied by money only. That means you can buy your way out and can never go to jail for civil wrongdoing. Cinderella became a servant in her own house. Harsh as it may be for Cinderella, whether she got put in the attic or a cupboard under the stairs and had to do all the chores at home, the law is not so overreaching as to meddle in families' private affairs. You may be surprised how much the stepmother and sisters could get away with, even under today's law. But wait a minute, the stepmother is not completely in the clear, and there's a difference between the animation stepmother and the Kate Blanchett stepmother. Let me explain. The old Cinderella was merely doing chores at home, but the new one suffered emotional child abuse when she was ridiculed by the stepmother and sisters. There's no evidence that the old Cinderella didn't have enough clothes, but the new one had to sleep next to the hearth to keep herself warm. Having inadequate clothing for the weather is a form of child abuse under physical neglect. They ripped the dress apart while she was still wearing it. This is assault and battery on the civil side of things under tort. Battery is the intentional infliction of a harmful or offensive bodily contact, and if you see it coming, it's also an assault. The 1950 stepmother let the siblings do the job while keeping her hands clean. The Kate Blanchett one, however, initiated the tearing herself. This is child abuse again. The 1950 stepmother made it look like it was a total accident. However, the Kate Blanchett one broke the glass slipper herself in front of her. And by the way, priceless is not recognized in law. Even if the broken slipper was priceless to Cinderella, her compensation has to be finite and be comparable to similar items available in the market. Both stepmothers locked Cinderella in her room. You might think that this was false imprisonment because Cinderella was held against her wish. But no, the law allows parents some leeway to discipline their child or to keep them from harm. As long as she had food and not in any sort of danger, the stepmother can lock her up in her room for a limited time. It's not illegal. With all the evil stepmothers in existence, we think that the Kate Blanchett one is simply not evil enough. She left incriminating evidence left and right. If you had to break the rules, make sure you leave no evidence. Cinderella is not in the clear either. The mice picked up a scarf and a necklace that the sisters tossed on the floor and used it to mod Cinderella's dress. If a judge finds that those material belongs to the sisters, she might order Cinderella to pay money equal to how much it might cost to buy the scarf and necklace from the sisters. She then went on a high-speed chase right before midnight. We understand she wants to go home no matter what, but she put everyone else on the street in danger. If her carriage hit and killed someone, she would have committed second-degree murder with her gross recklessness that manifests a wanton indifference to human life.
But I didn't mean to!
Yeah, if you mean to, it would be first-degree murder. Now let's talk about the fairy godmother. Fairy godmother told Cinderella to return before midnight. This is her subtle way of saying no sleeping over at your boyfriend's, and this is the law's unsubtle way of telling you the same. Having sex with anyone under the age of 18, regardless of consent, is statutory rape. The boyfriend could be branded a sex offender for the rest of his life. We have a problem with her giving a child a pair of glass slippers. There's negligence and then there's recklessness. Given how easily it breaks, if the slippers broke while Cinderella was still wearing them, fairy godmother would be responsible for the resulting injury and would be judged under the standard of a reasonable, prudent person under the circumstances. But, in all truth, you can forget about suing fairy godmother because you would have a hard time serving her papers, seeing how she only appears once in a lifetime. So that's it for Cinderella. Next up is Sleeping Beauty. Stay tuned.
No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on breathing, the dream that you wish may